Welcome to another episode of your award-nominated An Echo of Glory. We'll talk about those awards in today's episode. We'll also look back on the win against Everton briefly, chat a little bit more in depth about Brighton, and we'll preview the Bournemouth game on Sunday with broadcaster and Bournemouth fan Mark McAdam. He had a little bit of a problem with the video, so it's an audio-only interview, but it is really good. Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. Joining me, as always, Gary Diamond.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And welcome back after time off, very much Spurs, but you've come back.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your injuries healed up. We got you back before they all go off to AFCON. Jake Sanders, hello.
Afternoon.
Right. So start with an apology from last week. We couldn't get the Everton show on, which was a real shame because we had great guests lined up, didn't we? Leon Osman and Jen Scalacci, the former ladies captain, but we'll get them on at another time. But with some good news, we have been shortlisted for an award after just, 7 months going this pod. We've been shortlisted for the Best Team Podcast in the Sports Podcast Awards. And here are the other 12, I think it is, nominees. Achtung Millwall. Do you know them, Jake, from your time at Millwall?
I do.
You do? Are we better than them?
Yeah.
They'd beat us up, right?
Maybe. Let's not go into violence.
Yeah, we've been there before, haven't we?
An Echo of Glory, heard of them. Dolphins Talk, which I assume is about the Miami Dolphins. One assumes. Raiding the Kingdom, probably is it the Oakland Raiders anymore? I don't know anything about NFL. They changed their name, haven't they? Yeah. Sail GP, Deep Dive, Sailing Pod. Talk of the Devils, which is actually Ian Irving, the Man United Athletic pod who came on here. The Blue Room, I think that's an Everton pod. The Forever Arsenal pod. Yeah, boo. The Mets pod, which will be about the Met Police. I'm going to come back to the View from the Lane. I'm covering the Birds. I can't remember who that's about. I should have done my research. It's an NFL pod. And White Sox podcast, the baseball pod. View from the Lane, Danny Kelly said on one of their recent pods that, because they won it last year and Ian Irving's Talk of the Devils came second, he was basically saying that they're going to win it again. Shots fired, Danny Kelly. We are here to stay, mate. And this is a fight. This is a fight between the two best Spurs pods out there. So I don't think this is over.
I think it's just great that we've been nominated. I think it's nice to be recognised, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, all good.
So you can go and vote for us. Google the Sports Podcast Awards and head to Best Team Podcast, and we were there. Please vote for us. Don't vote for View from the Lane, even though I think they're really good. But no, I'm not having that. So that's that. So that's some good news. Some more gifts. Any good Spurs gifts at Christmas or anything? How was your Christmas?
I had a lovely Christmas. I did get a Spurs gift actually.
Okay.
My daughter was out shopping and she turned around and said she saw this and she wanted to get it for me. And it's very sweet. It's very sweet that she got this because it's a Tottenham Hotspur calendar, the official 2024 calendar. I think the last Tottenham calendar I had, I was probably about 13 years old, right? And what I love about this is that in the sort of 30 years or thereabouts, nothing changes. Nothing changes because, I mean, straight away it's been noticed that the four on the front, we're not going to see them in January.
Yeah, Jake
right?
noticed that before the show.
We've got Madison, Romero, Sonny and Basuma. So the four on the front, we ain't seeing them in January 2024. But nothing changes because my birthday month, my birthday month is March. And you always get, with respect, they're just a bit disappointing, really. It's Ollie Skip, and I just remember that, like, growing up, I always look forward to like getting these calendars, and my birthday was just like, it was just always that guy that, why March?
Yeah. Who've I got December for me?
You got a good one. You got James Maddison. Jake?
Madison for me.
Madison. James? April. Sonny? You see all of you, you're happy.
Sorry about that.
I've got Skippy.
Oh well.
Sorry, Skip.
Might see him Sunday. Anything?
No
Spurs-related gifts?
I wanted 3 points, but didn't get those.
I did get a Spurs mug, and obviously Jake that I am a Spurs mug, so, you know. Yeah.
I was able to go into Christmas happy with 3 points, though. With the game against Everton.
Yeah, we're going to come to that.
Yeah.
We'll have a very brief chat about Everton. Just some club news, as we always like to do. What?
Great time to talk about late gifts.
Oh, God, yeah. Merch. Got some Spurs merch.
And
Sorry, some Echo of Glory merch. Spurs merch, you can do that on the website. And Echo of Glory merch, we've got caps, we've got T-shirts.
We've got a new logo.
I'm going to come to that.
Oh, sorry. All
I'm
right.
going to come to that. We've got, if I can sort it out. I can't dress myself, you see, I need my wife here. Echo of Glory T-shirts, caps. We've got a new logo, which James here at Launch Studios has beautifully designed. So the merch is available. DM us on our Twitter at EOGTHFC if you want an Echo of Glory merch. And the caps are lovely. I actually can't wear a baseball cap; doesn't suit me.
Show the people the cap.
Show the people. I'm not going to wear the cap.
No,
There's the cap.
we're not going to put everyone through that.
Nice, obviously Spurs blue and white colours, looking very trendy in your an Echo of Glory caps. So let us know. Do send us a DM and we will get you some merch sorted. Happy with that, James? It's been 2 weeks off. I've just getting back into it. So we will start, as we always do, with some club news. Under 21s, 9 from 9, top of the table. Next league match is against Southampton on the 12th, but they do play Bristol City in the Cup on the 6th of January. Under 18s are top of the league. They did lose their last game 4-2 against West Ham.
Who was second in the league.
Yeah, with a game in hand. So getting pegged back a little bit, the under 18s. But their next match in 2 weeks is at home to Villa. The women's team on a break won their last game 1-0 at home to Arsenal, which was a great result.
It's worth mentioning that they played Arsenal twice in a week, and they had never. The women had never beaten Arsenal, and it's a shame we don't. I mean, I hope we do get to speak to Jen Scalacci because she captained the women's Spurs team for a number of years and saw them rise through the ranks. And people need to recognise that Spurs are not one of the establishment in the WSL league. They really had to rise through the ranks.
You do rarely get shocks in the WSL, so to hold Arsenal once and then to beat them.
Spurs were non-league when Arsenal were the best team in the country.
Yeah, exactly. So to
so
say we'd never beaten Arsenal isn't the disgrace that it sounds, right? We've actually had to really rise through the leagues and to hold them 3-3 and then a couple of days later go and beat them at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium 1-0 in a cracking game. And I've got to say, that goal was
beautiful goal.
Great goal. They really played their football. They defended well. They dug in. A team that had been conceding a lot of goals suddenly kept a clean sheet against an Arsenal team that spanked Chelsea 4 in their previous game. It was a hell of a result. And I really do hope we get to speak to Jen.
Yeah, that we're gonna try and sort that for January. And just one other bit of club news: this man is set to leave. Hugo Lloris, 447 appearances, debut in September 2012. Do you remember he had to wait? I think it was AVB. We signed Lloris and he stayed with Brad Friedel. Yeah. And he bought him in, I think against Villa. We had to wait until October. Club captain, great servant. I just want to ask, any memorable Lloris saves?
I think the one that always comes to mind is the Leverkusen away when he somehow
was that Moscow or Leverkusen?
Leverkusen. It was 0-0 draw and he sort of... was it Hernandez potentially? Hernandez possibly.
I do wonder with that if goal line technology might have given. But it was a stunning.
There was also that one at Wembley from Coutinho.
Those are the two that stick in my mind.
The one where he went with his other hand. Loads of great saves. Unfortunately, it ended quite sourly. But
I think when you've got a guy like that in goal for so long, I think we take for granted what a servant he was, and it's a bit of a shame that he sort of sneaks out the back door really very quietly. His last performance coming off at half time at St James's last season, and I think like testimonials these days don't seem to happen as much as they did, but it's a real shame because he probably, well, definitely in my view, deserves one, and it would have been nice for the club to have been able to show their appreciation for a guy that's spent his career really with us.
Any chance of some sort of recognition on Sunday or potentially Burnley? Him coming out.
I'd like to hope. That's a good point.
The scenes, he's been training with the team. But
we haven't seen him, have we? Since, like you said, since Newcastle. I assume he was.
Come out on the pitch or something like that would be.
He absolutely should do. I know he's. We've all had issues with the way he plays with his feet and blah blah blah. But 447 games, what a servant! I remember when Ireland played France in that playoff when Henry handled the ball. I think at that point, Lloris had just got into the France team and he was one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And I remember him making a save in the leg in Paris. I remember being on the phone to friend Ollie. We sort of got, I'd love to sign a goalie like that. We're never going to sign a goalie like that. And then 3 years later, we signed him almost out of nowhere. Yeah, it was a big deal for us.
Yeah. I'm going to throw you under a bus a little bit here. 447 appearances and goal. Only Pat Jennings beats that. Does Pat? I mean, which keepers have we had that have played more games?
Talk amongst yourselves.
All right, Jake. How are you? Good Christmas. You cooked the turkey? I did.
I'm
Did
just trying
the
to think who
potatoes
made.
as well?
I'm just trying to think who's made more than Ian Walker. Probably not that many.
Nah,
not,
Ian
not,
Walker
not
won't
in your
have done.
400.
Ian Walker won't have done. Robbo nowhere. I struggle. I genuinely think. I mean, I had.
Well, we've never. Well, in my lifetime, we've never had a.
The only one I could think would be Jennings. Surely. You got there yet?
I've nearly got there, but I now need to just quickly sort it in order. So I'm nearly there, but this is the beauty of an.
So
I'll tell you
From
someone
the
who
leftovers, I made a
could
turkey
break it if he continues.
Yeah,
Vicario.
this guy
I
Vic,
hope so.
Big Vic.
Yeah, Jennings 590 appearances for the club. Ted Ditchburn, goalkeeper.
He must be one of our most appearances of any position.
So
Surely.
Perryman, Mabbott, Jennings. According to this, anyway, Tom Morris, who I've never heard of. Cyril Knowles, Glenn Hoddle, Ted Ditchburn, Hugo Lloris.
Yeah.
Great servant.
So what? Third most as a keeper.
As a keeper, yeah.
Fair play. A bit of a round of applause for Hugo Lloris, man.
Yeah, and 145 caps for France. Yeah, top goalkeeper. Shame for him. Shame for many of them that we didn't win anything here, but obviously won a World Cup, and so we say goodbye to him. Like you say, hopefully against Bournemouth, maybe Burnley.
And a good move for him as well.
Can't get rid of his picture on the screen because the thing's broken. James!
Good move.
That's why he can
America,
start there.
settle
He's
down,
been here long
finish
enough.
his career in America.
Yeah, exactly. So
There we go.
Right, let's get into it. Have a quick look at Everton on the 23rd. A big win in my house with my wife. Hi. Supporting Everton. Took my son, who was sort of taking the mick when we got home, but I thought Everton were excellent. I thought we were brilliant for
30 minutes.
Yeah,
Maybe.
for between about the 5th minute and the 25th minute, I thought we were excellent. Some of the football was superb. And then Everton got back in it. They made an enforced change when Gay came off and Gomez came on. It seemed to make a big difference. And at that point, getting frustrated with trying to play the same way, and it's great. And sometimes you get out, and a lot of the time you don't get out. I just want to ask, is there any fear from you, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway, that in-game there doesn't even seem to be a plan B? This is the way we are going to play. And we know this is how I play, mate. You know, Everton, if they'd scored before half-time, I suspect they probably don't lose that game. Is there any fear from you that sometimes you just have to mix it up and we don't do it?
Yeah, I agree. You like to see some sort of tactical tweak. I'm not saying, personnel, but sometimes you see managers make these little tactical tweaks in games. Happened for us. I remember it happened, just springs to mind, against Juventus at Wembley when they made a tactical tweak. I think he brought on the former Arsenal left back, and it completely changed the game. And just sort of, as you say, just keeps going regardless of the flow of the game. He doesn't sort of change anything. He just lets it, sort of play out. And
we had someone on here, I think it was Seb Stafford-Bloor, who said that's not naivety, that's stubbornness.
I don't mind it. I think the problem
is the personnel that can't do it.
Yeah, well, it's a few things. It's number one, the personnel who aren't capable of doing it, and then behind them, we've got nobody to see it through. It's such a high intense way of playing, and you can see, like when you think about like transfer links, and you think about somebody like Conor Gallagher. Now imagine that you had in every game, in 8, Sarr for 60 minutes or Gallagher for 60 minutes, and then the other one for the next 30 minutes.
Thank you.
For the next 30 minutes, right? And that, you keep that intensity up throughout. And this is where I think, when we get into this a bit, but whatever is going on this season, we have to take it in a little bit of isolation of the fact that we are building the team and we have to build the squad. The team has also been decimated. You're missing the whole centre of your team at the moment, right? With Benson, Core, Bissouma and the 2 centre-backs. Most teams would
Okay, so
struggle
with that in mind, is there a sense, okay, these players can't do it, so don't do it? I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, because from his point of view, he's here for 4 or 5 years, right? So he has to take a look at...
You're allergic to the studio. I always notice in this studio you get the sniffs.
He's allergic to me.
Ange boy's allergic
It's
to
when we start talking negatively about Ange.
I was not talking negatively. Because my view on it is it's short-termist to sort of say, well, we're going to change the way we're playing because Højbjerg can't take the ball off the defence and he can't break that first press and he can't receive the ball. It's exactly what happened against Brighton last night. They just pressed onto him and he actually didn't have a bad game, but the whole way we play without being able to go through that 6. But at the same time, so you say like, should we change it up a bit? But his point of view has to be, Ange's point of view has to be, this is the way we're going to play. This is what my team needs to know. And eventually we will get the right players and the depth of squad, and when that happens, we're playing sort of 25, 30-minute bursts, and we're putting teams like Everton away 2-0. Okay, we're clinging on. Could have done it to Brighton last night. We could, the first 5-10 minutes, we were on top and playing really well. Had a couple of chances.
Did we?
Yeah, like we didn't. Okay, people say we haven't had a shot on goal, but I take a look at it in terms of the positions you're getting into.
Positions. We had a lot of
and
positions.
the final ball, the bit of quality with that final ball, and you've got to tap in.
But then we're going to come to Brighton.
Out down the left.
We'll come to Brighton in a second. Hold
But
that
the point
thought.
is, no, I don't think he should change the way that he plays. And I think once you get the likes of Bentancur, Bissouma, Romero, Van de Ven, and then behind them, better quality of players to come in than what we're seeing, then it will work.
Yeah.
I think some fans just want him to maybe be slightly adaptable. And not, we're missing 7 players, the entire spine of our team, and I'm just going to stick to my guns and,
I'd
continue
say
to play the same way. Exactly.
Different to that, right? I think different but the same is there has to come a point in a game where, okay, we're under pressure. Rather than going hell for leather and every time we're getting the ball streaming forwards and trying to get the goal, just keep the ball, knock it about a little bit, take the sting out of the game, take the pace out of the game. That's not necessarily changing the way you're playing. That's just managing a game.
A bit of a rush.
Yeah, exactly. That's just managing a game.
I totally agree with you, Gaz, but there's a moment against Everton that springs to mind at 2-0 in the first half when Everton were all over us and a goal seemed to be coming. We got caught out in the corner trying to play out. And it's at that point you're just like, and I agree with you, and I'm fully on board this Ange train, that sometimes I just think... We talked about it very directly. The last time we played a long ball, they ended up scoring.
I don't think I think that's just game management sometimes. I don't think that's necessarily the way that Ange, players can take the responsibility upon themselves to manage it a bit better.
And I think it's the players needing to understand a bit more. I don't think Ange is saying to them, when you're in that corner, I demand that you play your way out. Because last night, for example, we went direct quite a few times, which I thought was right to try and beat their press. And in fact, we should have scored a goal from it when Porro picked out Brennan Johnson. And God knows how he managed to balls that up. I mean, that's really poor. But so I don't think that's necessarily Ange saying you must never go long. I think they can go long. And I think the players need to understand or have more intelligence and game management about when and how to manage it.
Well, okay, Everton, I wouldn't say battered us. They certainly did, maybe for the last 15 minutes, and it was chaos at times. When Danjuma went through on the left-hand side when Vicario made that brilliant tip over, Porro was nowhere to be seen.
But that just sort of summed up everything. And we're 2-0 up, 10 minutes to go, conceded.
It was 2-1 at that
and
point.
then 30 seconds later, they were 3 against 2, which just shouldn't happen. But
look, we held on against Everton and death taxes and beating Everton. We always seem to beat Everton. So 3 wins in a row. We go to Brighton. And you say we had good positions. We just didn't shoot. And they had, Welbeck had that chance that Vicario saved. And there was another save that he made. And then Hinchelwood as a shot, and it goes in. It's like, at that point, you're like, well, if you shoot, you will score. We were getting into good positions in the first 5-10 minutes. We didn't shoot. We didn't have a shot on target in the first half. I think the first shot on target we had was that Udogie one in the second half. It felt like, I think you just said it off air, Jake, like 2 hours between, or an hour between the second half of Everton and the first hour against Brighton. Just seemed a continuation. And yes, we're decimated by injuries. But, that was the first time we'd been 2-0 down under Ange at any point.
Well, it was the first time we'd been 1-0 down since
Arsenal,
which is about 12 games, isn't it? Which is
and there has to be some thought given to the fact that we've got more injuries and more suspensions. It seems every time we get a player back, 2 come out. And I get that, and he's frustrated, and he's even said it last night, we've got 10 out, what do you want me to do? And
I know what I want him to do. We'll come on to that.
Sign some players.
Well, that's not so much on him.
Because I want to talk about the lineup. The lineup, I know you weren't happy with, not just because Højbjerg was in it.
You just can't play.
Also, Højbjerg had to play.
He didn't.
Well, he could have played.
He didn't have to
Let's
play.
talk about the lineup. The lineup was Vicario in goal, Porro, Emerson, Davies, Udogie. In front of them, Son and Højbjerg. Johnson, come to him. Kulusevski, Son, and Richarlison. You're going to tell me that Lo Celso could have played there.
I'm going to say 2 things. Okay, we have not won a game with Romero and Davies at centre back. Okay, I think you've got you came in with a stat about.
Go on, hit me up.
We've conceded 10 goals with Romero in the team, which is about 1,100 minutes, and 18 without him in 540 minutes.
Right. So, we're talking about should we adapt the way that we play. You cannot play when you've got a guy like, one of the reasons we break the press is not just because Bissouma's in the team, but because you can't press on Romero. He'll just either knock it past you or he'll take it past you.
Yeah.
Right? He's got the ability to carry the ball, and he takes men out of the game, and that in itself creates options for the pass. Right? When you've got Royale, you can easily then press onto Royale, you can press onto Højbjerg, and it's so much easier to get at us. Okay, so should we change the way we play? Yeah, we should go a bit more direct, which, as I mentioned, Porro did at times with that ball over the top. But you have to take, Ange has to be looking at it, and he has to say to himself, we need somebody out of that three with Davies, Højbjerg and Royale who can put their foot on the ball. Okay? Now, Højbjerg doesn't have to play because you can put Sarr in there. You can get Lo Celso in there. And I'll say this as well. I feel sorry for Royale because he isn't a centre-back. He's not a centre-back. He's trying to do a job. I don't blame him in any way. But if you can say to me that either Alfie Dorrington or Ashley Phillips can't come in and do a better job. And Ashley Phillips is 6'3", 6'4", athletic, big. Oh, it might ruin his confidence. Oh, no. Come on, this makes
it couldn't have been worse than last night.
Exactly, and this is the making of players. How are they going to get the experience sat on the bench?
Would you rather Dyer over Emerson?
Yeah, probably. Actually, yeah. I mean, like, here's what I think. Okay, I don't understand why we're playing players that are clearly out of the club. Right, they're going.
Oh, because we need bodies.
No, you don't. Right. Ange has never turned around and said this is a developmental year. He's never said that. But we know that this is a developmental year. We're not expecting to challenge for the title this year or anything like that. We know this is the beginning of the Ange era. So use it as development. Stop playing players that are going to be leaving the club and have no future here. Stop playing Højbjerg. Stop playing Dyer. Stop playing Brian fucking Gill, right? Like,
Algorithm, stop swearing.
Stop it, okay? The guy hasn't got it.
No, he doesn't.
He hasn't got it. I think he'd be a lovely player in Spain or Italy or somewhere like that. He's not going to be a player here, okay? It's just not going to happen. And you've got a kid, Santiago, who's playing very well in the under-21s. He's having a great season. It's a bit of a breakout season for him, actually, right? He might have a future at the club.
Well, certainly at 4-0 down.
Stick him on the left wing. Why are you bringing this geezer on that has no future at the club? Why do we insist? And this is why I think he played Skip against Everton, because he realised that Højbjerg is going to go. So Skip is the guy that has got to kind of back in that situation.
Yeah, I don't know whether Skip would have played last night if he hadn't had this knock. He actually was at the game. He came off the bus.
Yeah, I think Skip would have played ahead of Højbjerg.
So I'm not sure, just a minor knock.
But once he's out, then you've got to take a look at it. You've got to go, right, I'll put Sarr in the 6. And I'll get my footballers in. I'll get Kulusevski and Lo Celso. And Lo Celso, who's played very well in that 8, not so well in the 10, and we'll come to this with the match against Bournemouth, because I'm concerned that he's going to put Lo Celso in the 10, given the problems that we've got. I've got a solution. You won't like it. But, yeah.
Play Jamie Donnelly.
100%. 100%.
But
Sarr
to
in
be fair,
the 6,
back
Lo Celso
onto the point,
Donnelly.
not so much the Donnelly, but the Dorrington Phillips could save the club millions.
Yeah.
It could, if we, I know we need to sign one centre-back, but if one of them breaks out, we don't need to go and sign another in the summer.
Why have they not been given the opportunity?
I'm not saying, I've never...
100%.
I'm almost certain we'll see one of them against Burnley.
This kid that scored against us for Brighton, they had to chuck him in.
Hinshelwood.
Yeah.
Well, he's been playing.
Yeah,
but
they had to
not.
3
He
weeks
wasn't
ago.
playing, right? They've had to chuck him in, and he looks like a player. And they say this: a lot of these players that come in, they're full of it, they're confident, they're brave. They haven't got any fear.
Well, as someone on Twitter said last night, I can't remember who it was, I almost don't know that Spurs have got an academy. We seem to have this aversion to bringing the young players in.
Correct.
I hate to mention them, but Saka and Smith Rowe, it was this situation. Arsenal were, had
they
no
broke
players,
out.
loads of injuries, and look at them
And
now.
they
I'm not
broke
saying
out.
that they're going to be them, but, give them a chance.
100%. 100%. And I would much rather see Santiago falling over his own 2 feet on the left wing at 4-0 down than Brian Hill getting blown over by a slight breeze, right? I would rather see that. I would rather see Ashley Phillips or Dorrington making a mistake and costing us a goal, but developing than fucking Dyer or Royale, bless him, trying his heart out at centre-back. I would rather see, against Bournemouth, Jamie Donnelly saying to him, we think you've got a big future at the club. Don't worry what happens. He said it to Mickey van der Ven. Don't worry what happens. You've got a big future at the club.
Yourself.
Go out and just play and do what you can do. I'd rather see that, and it's something that we, the fans, could get behind. What I don't want to see is Højbjerg, Dyer, Hill, players that are not a part of this club going forwards. It's ridiculous.
I find it very interesting that Brighton have got as many injuries as us. I think possibly one more going into yesterday. But their players come in and they look the same team. We do not look the same team. And we know this. This is a relic of previous managers, and as you've said, Ange is the very start of a 4 or 5 year, hopefully, successful tenure.
But there is a difference, though, with that, is that Brighton have succession planned for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, right, with Potter through to De Zerbi, right? So every player that they've been buying has been fitting a mould. They've been technical. They've been able to put their foot on the ball, they're footballers.
Do you know what they also do with their succession plan? If they sign a player, they think about losing him, and they know who replaces him.
Right, but that's the point. Okay, is that to say Brighton have as many injuries? Yeah, I agree they do, but the difference is, as you just said there, we've got relics left over from the time of Conte and Mourinho, like Højbjerg, who is a very good player in the right system. Okay, please do understand me. And he's also always available, which is worth its weight in gold when you see the likes of Romero, Bissouma, and so on, right? So this isn't about Højbjerg and my dislike of him. It's my dislike of him in this system because it's not suited to him.
Talking of always available, where are you on this discipline stuff? Because I look at Bissouma, 3 suspensions. Udogie, 2 suspensions this season. Kulusevski, a booking last night, 4 yellows in 6 games. Sarr was on 4 until last night. Romero's had his suspensions. For me, again, this sounds like I'm just digging the manager out. I think that comes from the manager. I think a lack of discipline comes from the manager, and it has to be reined in. We've got Kulusevski's booking last night. Okay, it's probably a yellow card for me. The 3 bookings before, I remember the one against West Ham. He just basically, I think he just blocked someone for no reason in the 93rd minute. Everton, he barely kicked the ball away. Probably wasn't a yellow, but you're going to get a yellow for that nowadays. Do you disagree when I say I think the manager needs to rein this in, certainly in the situation we're in?
I think the way that Ange responded to the question from Neville and Carragher after the Forest game when he got asked after Bissouma's red made me feel like it's a lot down to him, because he just said, that's the way we're going to play. But I think some of the Udogie bookings is the way we play and the way we're so high up the pitch, and he's a few of them he has to make them. I know the one against Forest probably wasn't a booking, but I'm sure it is partly down to Ange. These are grown men, though. They need to take responsibility. Bissouma's 2 red cards are nothing to do with Ange. Mm-hmm. Kulusevski kicking the ball away. What Kulusevski did against Brighton, that's nothing to do with the manager. Often, I understand that there's a big discipline problem. We've had, 4 red cards and probably the most bookings in the league. But they've got to take responsibility. Some of these are, I know some of them the way we play and, the pullbacks when we're caught out of position, but some of them they've got to take responsibility. That's just a lack of individual discipline, in my opinion.
I think when Arteta came into Arsenal and when Klopp went into Liverpool, their first couple of seasons, they had big disciplinary problems. And a lot of it is to do with the players adapting to the way they play and maybe they sort of get caught out every now and then and whatever it is. It's not something I'm too concerned about. I would say it would help if we were reffed in the same way as other teams, because Lewis Dunk apparently is able to lose the ball and crack through Kulusevski in a challenge that is identical and probably worse than the one Romero.
I reckon I've seen that challenge 10 times this season. 5 have been reds and 5 haven't. There has to be some more consistency.
That's a red. They hardly checked it either.
Yeah, it's a red. It's a red all day.
Yeah, they definitely.
And when you think that Romero picked up a booking, I think it was against West Ham for absolutely nothing. I do feel that refs are kind of looking at us at the minute.
Well, Romero's always going to be that Luis Suarez kind of.
But even just us at the minute, I do feel we're picking up really cards that other teams just may not be.
You say on Bissouma being a grown man. This was a guy who we've sat here all summer going, and into the start of the season when he was brilliant, going, how was this guy ignored by Conte? So he's had a horrific time under Conte. We can barely get in the team. Comes in the team at one point, is one of the best midfielders in the league. But before Christmas, he served 3 suspensions and then goes to the Africa Cup of Nations, where there's been a bit of tit for tat arguing on Twitter about whether he's their first choice midfielder. I'm not convinced he is. Happy to be proved wrong. But regardless, he's not going to play for Spurs again until February. You're right. That's not on Ange. That's on him. How can you be so ignored by one manager, get in under another, and then disappear? Have 3 suspensions in a season.
I think he would have missed 8 games, right? 1 for the booking, 3 for the red, 4 for the red, right?
Yep.
You get 4 for 2 reds.
Yep.
20 games, he would have missed 8. That's nearly half the season. I think when everyone's fit, that could cost him his place.
What was his discipline at Brighton?
I think he got quite a few bookings, but I don't recall him getting sent off.
But, you know, look, going back to the thing about concepts, I think your point was, you know, Conte said he can't trust him or something like that, or he's got to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that's any defence of Conte. I don't think Conte's being proven correct in this, right? Because ultimately players only learn when they're on the pitch.
Sorry to interrupt. This isn't new. 18, 22, 27 yellows and 1 red in 4 seasons.
That's about
right.
standard, isn't it, for a centre midfielder?
So he's gone Premier League 5 yellows, 4 yellows, 8 yellows, 10 yellows. So one season he had 10
and what's he got for us? 7 or 8?
12 yellows, 2 reds in 38 games.
Yeah, that's one season. 12 yellows and 2 reds. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Compared to, you know, the others, but Bentancur never served a suspension.
But I think there is another facet to this, which is I think Brighton do play slightly differently, and I think they played with a double pivot, right? So he had somebody next to him. He is the 6, doing it on his own.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an extra burden on him to win the ball back and, you know, take the ball and as we saw against like City, try and turn and break that press initially. And when he does that and he sometimes maybe loses it, he's over eager to win it back, and you can understand why, because he knows that if he loses it, they're in, right? So there is a pressure on him, but if he is the guy who said of himself he thinks he can be the best midfielder in the league, then he has to step up into that. I'm mitigating for him because I can understand why he's picking up a few more bookings, but I think it will sort itself.
I feel like his first suspension has stemmed his momentum completely.
Yeah. Sure.
Because he came back and then he, you know, obviously it discounted the booking
but the first
suspension, and then he got suspended
that was
again.
the Luton one.
Yeah, the dive was ridiculous.
Although Saka dived last night, didn't get booked. That's another thing. Where's the consistency?
That's the point, isn't it? I'm telling you, I think we're refed differently. I think we pick up bookings that other teams don't get.
Decision, isn't there? Since the Liverpool one.
We are picking up bookings that other teams just do not get. After that post-Liverpool, I've mentioned on this pod before, I think we had something like 56 fouls against us without a booking, right? And that's just obscene. It's obscene.
Where are you on... we could have got something from last night. For me, when you're 4-0 down with 10 minutes to go, I don't agree with people that I've seen on social media saying, well, actually, we could have got something. We could have been 5 or 6 down by the time we... Valise. By the way, I love that celebration from Valise. 4-1 down, and he's so happy. Mate, he scored. Absolutely. You scored your first Premier League goal. Do what you want, pal.
Good luck to
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, we could have lost the game 6-0, but we could have got something. There's no, you know, the fact that we were 4-0 down after 80 minutes doesn't mean that we couldn't have got something. If Højbjerg's shot went in with 4 minutes to go, Brighton were crapping themselves at that point.
Yeah, if that goes in at 4-3.
If we'd scored at any minute in injury time, I reckon we would have got something.
A point. Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, yeah.
But I think it's kind of changed people's perspective on the performance. I remember, I don't know if you came. We went to see a comedian once in Leeds. He was so bad. I reckon he gave 20 jokes, and the first 18, I feel sorry for this guy. This guy needs to get off the stage. And the last 2 jokes were quite funny. And I remember on the way home or in the bar, someone said, "Actually, that guy was alright, wasn't he?" I was like, those 2 jokes at the end did not make that a good comedy set.
Yeah, but
those 2 goals did not make that a better performance.
I saw someone tweet last night.
It was a good comedy show.
And not that it helps in any way, shape or form because we lost the game, but the late rally sort of felt slightly important.
Yeah, and then Arsenal lost and everybody felt better.
That as well. But besides that, it just felt, you know, it sounds very small time, but it felt a little bit important, maybe just even to take into Bournemouth potentially.
The game was at 2-0, and I was watching with my dad, and I said, I just feel like as well as Brighton are playing it, if we get a goal,
correct. If Charleston hit the post,
well, at 2-0, I was thinking if we, you know,
we had a couple of the offside, but the one that killed me last night, and I've already mentioned it, I think it was at 2-0. Porro plays it over the top, and Brennan Johnson is a player that
was at 1-0.
Was that 1-0? That right? So Brennan Johnson is a player that. I'm starting to get frustrated.
Talked about this. I'm worried about his lack of.
I don't know if he has. It's the winning mentality, right? As that ball comes out, he's got to make the step up to the bigger club. That's where he's at now, and he's got to be a man and take responsibility, right? And when that ball comes over, we've got a 3 on the keeper, right? It's a 3 on the keeper. It's a little bit like the 5 that Liverpool had streaming forwards against Arsenal, right? Like it's criminal that you do not score in that situation. It is absolutely criminal.
Well, it's certainly criminal not to create a chance out of it.
It's criminal not to score. To not create a chance is beyond belief, right? But there were moments in the game, and the game last night for us was about moments. That's okay. We're not going to dominate every game. But you have to be clinical in your moments, and we had moments in the first 5-10 minutes. We got into great positions. I think Andy Townsend on co-commentary was saying in the first 5 minutes, Spurs have started really well, and we'd started very well, and we had got into positions. Final ball wasn't there, and that ball over the top from Porro to Johnson epitomised what happened in that first half, where in the moments that we had, the one area of the pitch where we haven't actually got injuries, well, Maddison,
right,
but you know, Son, Richarlison, and Brennan Johnson is probably.
I think you're right. I think you can almost excuse. We've said Emerson is not a centre half, and Højbjerg can't play in this system. The front three, whilst they might be tired because they're playing every week, there was almost no excuse for them to put in those performances.
And the first goal was on Son, by the way.
Oh my God!
There were mistakes. There were mistakes all over the pitch, but it was Son under Conte with his back to goal on the halfway line. And I was saying to my dad, he's got a problem here. He's got a problem. Just find a shirt. Geezer, young right back, bullies him off the ball, and they go and score with a powder puff challenge from Højbjerg on the edge of the area, letting it go. So that's how they got through to the kid that robbed Son in the first place, who ended up sticking it in. The front three. Actually, I don't blame too much Richarlison.
I thought Richarlison
was he tried
a couple of inches away on another day.
Got to be cleverer though, haven't you, as a centre forward?
The
first one was poor. The second one was poor from Kulusevski. I think he could have played it earlier. I don't think Richarlison. It's all about timing your run and timing the pass. I don't think he did loads wrong. Unfortunately, the two other chances, one he just put wide in the second half, and one hit the post.
It's funny actually that the one he put wide was almost an easier finish than the one he scored from the offside. Yeah, he had dunk to use.
I don't think Richarlison did much wrong last night.
No, I agree. Just slightly mistimed his run, but Son and Brennan Johnson did not step up, and they needed to. When you're depleted, you need your big players and your front
even more so on Sunday. With
100%. And it wasn't the only time that Son lost the ball with his back to goal. He did it again at one point, and they nearly scored from it. So. He was brilliant against Newcastle, absolutely tore Trippier to shreds. But when Son's not on it, he is an empty shirt.
We've talked about it before,
I agree with Johnson, though. I like him. I know you're a bit unsure, and he's obviously got something about him.
He does.
But I think the key word is just responsibility. He doesn't. I don't want to say he doesn't have the balls, but he looks a bit scared to take on the responsibility. If that was a confident player last night, he would have just put it across. It was like basics.
But why wouldn't he be confident?
Or cut back, and they both.
But why wouldn't he be confident? He's got a lovely assist against Everton. He's got assists and goals in his last couple of games. He gets into positions.
I don't know, he just looks a bit
but it's
scared.
even about. I can understand. All right, maybe he takes a bad touch. It happens. But he didn't take on his fullback once. This is a guy with blistering.
The fullback went off at half time. He didn't even look interested. That particular one, if you watch that back, Johnson gets the ball and the fullback just backs away.
Yeah.
He didn't want to engage with his pace.
Like, just take him on, run at him, get the geezer on a booking, right? Do something, put them under a bit of pressure. And he didn't do that last night. And I feel like he needs to start stepping up and showing a bit more. He plays on the periphery of games. And when he gets it right, that's okay, because he might get a goal or an assist or both or whatever, as he did against Everton. When you're playing on the periphery of games and you're not quite on it,
you have to.
I feel like he could be really good.
Yeah, I
if
agree.
he really, gets up to speed and gets a bit of confidence.
But I feel like
tear teams apart.
100%. But he shouldn't be on the periphery of games. He should be demanding the ball.
Yeah.
Absolutely demanding it, wanting to take it, wanting to run, wanting to go at his fullback or come inside or just run at players. With your pace like that, you get touched, you're going to go over, you're going to win a free kick at worst, probably get the geezer booked, right? It's got to help the team. I want to see more from him. I want to see
what someone like Lucas Moura could do with pace. I'm not comparing him, but the pace is a weapon.
As soon as he carries
you have to make the most of a weapon like that.
So, as we've said, 4-0 down. All right, we get back in the game. We could have got something, but we didn't. I don't really think we deserved anything. That would have been daylight robbery if we'd scored 4 and got a point out of that. But we go into a game 3 days later. Some teams have got a week off.
Second time it's happened to us in this little run, by the way.
And then we play Burnley on the Friday night. So we are really, really squeezed in terms of rest days and whatever. But we go into...
Question.
Yes.
We've got 2 games, another 2 games in a short space of time. Our squad is really stretched thin. You're talking about maybe you bring the youth players in against Burnley, whatever. Giving you the choice, 3 points against Bournemouth and you go out the cup to Burnley, or no points against Bournemouth, but you go through to the fourth round?
Burnley win.
Burnley win.
Really?
3 points against Bournemouth.
Really? I've got a feeling.
You're a top four over FA Cup.
I've got a feeling it could well be one or the other.
I think Burnley should be a good draw. I think Company will make a lot of changes for that.
Hopefully so.
I think they've got Luton the next week, so
Have they?
Okay.
it's their next league game. So
Anyway, I interrupted your flow. My
That's a good
apologies.
question. Well done.
Thanks.
can we just not have both? Is it too much to ask?
Mate,
to beat Bournemouth
hopefully.
and Burnley
Right,
at
listen,
home?
we're at home
Two
against
teams.
Bournemouth and Burnley,
No.
right? A full strength Tottenham squad smashes these two games out the park. I'm convinced of
No,
that.
no. You know what happens?
But we ain't close to that, are we?
You know what's going to happen because we've got no players in no time. We'll get a draw against Burnley and have to have a replay.
Oh, they're replays.
I've just looked at. I
We did that.
don't
about
think they've been scrapped yet.
6 years ago, didn't we? Played Burnley FA Cup.
Can you imagine going?
Drew the away game and beat them 4-2 in the home game. I
I
think.
don't remember that.
6
Your memory
years
on
ago.
that is better than mine because you're younger. Mine's fading away. So we go into Bournemouth. Since the start of the Chelsea, I know the Chelsea game we fell apart and we had 9 men and whatever, but we've let in 19 goals since the start of that game, which is the most in the league along with Nottingham Forest. We now come up against a team who scored 8. They got 6-1 to City at I think the 4th of November that weekend. Since then they've scored 18 goals
But
in
also, they're
7
not
games.
conceding.
They've kept 4 clean sheets, I think, in that time. We're going to talk about Bournemouth in a minute, but should we talk to a Bournemouth expert first?
Yeah.
Right, let's do that. Delighted to be joined by broadcaster and Bournemouth fan Mark McAdam. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Great to see you guys.
So we've got to go straight in with Bournemouth, a season of 2 halves already. First 9 games, 3 points. Second set of games, 22 points since then. I know it takes a while for a manager to bed their ideas in, but surely no one can envisage this turnaround since the end of October.
It's been incredible and very unexpected as well. You have to look at Bournemouth and separate it into, like you rightly say, the beginning and the most recent matches. It took until their 10th Premier League game to pick up 3 points. And during that spell, you were watching and looking on, and I was going to weekly press conferences and speaking to the manager, and I was thinking, I don't know what to say anymore because there's some good moments in performances, but it's just not clicking. The players aren't getting it. I'm not sure the manager knows his best team. And there was a sort of sense of frustration that this big decision that they'd made during the course of the summer to get rid of Gary O'Neill, bring in Andoni with no Premier League experience and very little management experience as well. And of course, become the first manager in Bournemouth's history that was a foreign manager. To see it unfold in the way it was, it looked like it was, heading for disaster. And he could be the first Premier League manager to get sacked. And I remember speaking to some of the board members when I saw them at games, and I remember speaking to a lot of the fans, and the board was so relaxed about the situation. And they really firmly believed that it would come good, that it would click, and the players would get it, and things would turn around. And boy, were they right. 6 wins in their last 7. Players are playing to their very best levels. There's a feel-good factor around the club at the moment. And dare I say it, some quarters of the fan base are saying we're all going on a European tour, which I think is quite ludicrous. But football is there to dream and to get excited about and to believe. And Bournemouth fans right now are dreaming, believing and loving every second.
And quite rightly, and it's great to hear that there was no pressure on him. I was going to ask, actually, was there, did you think they might pull the trigger? But away from that, has anything changed on the pitch between the 9-game split? Or was this is the way you were playing, it was just going to take time, and now it's just clicking? Or has he changed, has he gone, right, actually, this is the Premier League, I need to do something different?
Well, there's sort of 2 questions there, isn't there? First of all, nothing has changed. I say to him every single week, particularly recently, Gaffer, you've now won 3 games in a row. You've now picked up this. You've now picked up a really good point. You're playing really well. You're scoring goals. What's changed? What have you done differently? What have you learned? And he says, no, we're just doing the same things. The players are getting the same messages. We're doing the same things in training. Obviously, everything has improved. And I think there's a greater understanding now of what the players want to do and what are they required to do from the manager. He has this self-titled chaos football. That is how he describes his football. And sometimes it can seem a little bit chaotic, some of the things they do. But what you're seeing with this is such an exciting brand of football, which is very unpredictable. Now, when you look in the Premier League and you look at like Pep Guardiola or Unai Emery or Mikel Arteta, you know, they will be relentless in their detail about how they prepare for each and every Premier League game. They will spend hours and hours and hours. They'll have teams of people that go through videos and clips and data and metrics to come up with a game plan. But when you're up against a manager who has this self-branded chaos football, how do you come up with a game plan when you don't know what the game plan is going to be? And I think that's really catching teams out, and it's super exciting to watch. And to go back to the other point in your question, was there ever a point where the club were going to pull the trigger and say, nah, enough is enough, this is not working and this hasn't worked? I don't think there was ever a point there. I think they were so relaxed. They knew what they were doing. They had spent a lot of time watching Andoni's Rayo Vallecano side. They knew what he was about, and they knew it would take a little bit of time. The thing was holding their nerve. And at Bournemouth, we know it's not the biggest club in the country. We know it's not the biggest club in the Premier League. It doesn't have a large fan base. You know, at Tottenham, if the manager's not doing well, you've got hundreds of thousands of people all around the world telling everyone he's not doing very well. Yeah. At Bournemouth, you don't have that. So there isn't that relentless pressure that exists at other clubs. So the board don't feel the heat when it comes to making the big decisions. They can relax. They can just say, no, we've got a plan here. We'll stick to it. Let's stick to what we believe in and what we did in the summer. And right now, wow, it's unbelievable because it is all coming to fruition brilliantly. And I don't think there's a single side in the Premier League that Bournemouth will fear at the moment.
Well, I wonder if one of the changes, you said there hasn't been any changes, but one of them could be the introduction of a player that I was hoping Spurs would have signed in the summer, in Alex Scott. He's come into the team over the last 5-6 games after injury, and particularly against Fulham was outstanding. Tell us a bit about him. What have you made of him? What's his best position? Is it deeper lying? Is it further forward? What sort of a player is Alex Scott, and how much of a difference has he made to the team since coming in?
So I've been on the Alex Scott train for some time. Amazingly, he was released by the Bournemouth Academy when he was a kid, and then ended up at Bristol City. And I watched a lot of Championship football for Soccer Saturday and for Soccer Specials. So I spend a lot of time watching the second tier. It's my favourite level. I love watching players come through and develop and see how they get on. And it gives you a real insight into the kind of stars of the future, particularly the young ones, because that's where all the Premier League clubs are watching. So I was watching Alex Scott for a number of seasons playing at Bristol City. No question about his ability. I was super excited about him as a player, young lad, great temperament, great character. He was playing as a 6 under Nigel Pearson. So he's playing really deep, really, as a pivot, just in front of the back four. And I always sort of felt like he was doing loads of good work, but he was doing it in his third or the middle third. He wasn't doing it in the final third where he could be really effective. So Nigel Pearson played him as a 6. I saw him more as an 8 or a 10, which is exactly what Bournemouth have seen him as. And it was really, really funny because he was a player that was on their radar for a number of months, maybe even years, and got close to going to Wolves in January. But the offer was rejected. And then the lad actually with his family said, no, I'm not going to go in January. I'm going to carry on playing my football at Bristol City. Let's see what happens in the summer. So again, that was quite, he wasn't just jumping at the first opportunity in the Premier League move. He was waiting for the right club and the right time. And then obviously just before his move to Bournemouth, he got injured in training. And Bristol City said it would be a few weeks, and it turned out to be a few months. So it's taken some time for him to get back fit and get into the side. But already in this very short space of time, you're seeing pure quality. You're seeing a really exciting midfielder with versatility, someone that can get on the ball, make things happen, drive forward. And again, he's part of the Bournemouth remit, young, exciting, hungry players that they can develop and make better. But yeah, it's one of those for Tottenham where you are, you're looking at punching into the top 4. You're looking at winning trophies. You're looking at playing Champions League football. He's probably not right and ready for that. But there's no question what he's done in the early stages of his Bournemouth career. That move and that football will be 12, 18, 24 months away.
Interesting.
Mark, without trying to sell your best player, because we know exactly how that feels, there's obviously been a lot of noise recently over the former Dom Solanke. Is there any sort of fears over a potential January interest from some of the top clubs, and if not the summer, if he continues scoring as many goals as he is?
It's brilliant. I just love this. When Bournemouth paid Liverpool £20 million for Dom Solanke all those years ago, there was a lot of people saying, that's a lot of money and big price tag. He's not worth it. He's not good enough. And it's taken some time for Dom to become the player he is now. I think actually, relegation's never a good thing, but for some clubs, it's a good thing. For a club like Bournemouth, it ended up being a good thing for the likes of Dom Solanke. He went down to the Championship for a couple of seasons. That final season before they got promoted, he scored 29 goals, 30 in all competitions. And if you're a striker, regardless of what level you're scoring goals at, that will do a lot for your confidence and your self-belief. And I think it was in that season where he became the main man for Bournemouth. He scored goals. He was playing week in, week out. He was developing as a player, on and off the ball as well, which we'll speak about in a minute. But he became the main man, and that burden of 20 million quid, having played for Chelsea and Liverpool beforehand, had disappeared. And he was a different Dom Solanke. He wasn't this superstar teenager from a big Premier League side that didn't make it. He was his own man at Bournemouth. And then obviously the first season in the Premier League, back again, he got 6 goals. He's now got 12 and 1 in the Cup, and he scored 5 in his last 3. So he is in blistering form, scintillating form. And the other thing, not just about the goals, forget the goals. You look at the work rate, the energy, the metrics and the data around his off-the-ball work, the way he presses and the way he runs almost 12 kilometres a game, which for a striker is absolutely incredible. So he is the whole package right now. He's super confident. And I guess really the point in your question is, at what price do Bournemouth sell, if at all? If someone had chucked 50 million quid on the table a few weeks ago, I think Bournemouth would have been very, very tempted. Now, I think that's, 65 plus. I think he's that type of a player. He's 26 years old, so he's still got, 5, 6, 7 years at his very peak ahead of him. So he will be a reasonable investment for any side. But again, it's down to the owner, isn't it? Bill Foley, the American that came in just over a year ago, has invested very heavily in the club, building a new training ground, building a new stadium. There's plans afoot for the club, and he really wants to develop and build this brand of Bournemouth. Ultimately, if someone chucks that money on the table, you've got a decision to make. Do we accept this? Is this right? Can we replace Dom? What do we do? But it would have to be a very heavy offer. But I would be very surprised if they were to sell him in January, particularly with what's happening. And for Dom, just to sort of finally cap the Dom Solanke scenario, I spoke to him a few weeks ago, and I spoke to him a few months ago, and every single interview I've ever done with him, he always talks about England. He always talks about international football. Now, a lot of people 6 months ago would have laughed and gone, what, Dom Solanke for England for the Euros? No chance. But he has that ambition. He has that desire still to play at the highest level and to play international football. And with his current form and the way he's playing, for him to go and jump into another club could be really dangerous if he harbours any ambitions. Yep. And if he carries on scoring the way he is, Gareth Southgate cannot ignore him.
No. You talk about the January window. I'm sure you've had a nice Christmas. It's always busy for those who work in the media, but it's about to ramp up for you with the transfer window in January. How much do you look forward to that? But also on a Spurs level, which is always a bit chaotic, do you hearing anything, or do you think Tottenham will be busy ins and outs in January?
So it's a weird one. I love the window and hate the window all at the same time. It consumes your life. At Sky Sports News, our transfer coverage becomes the forefront of everything we do. Really, it becomes the main thing. It's the top of the news agenda. You look at all of the hits and the data. Millions and millions of people are tuning into the transfer blog. They're watching video clips. They are tuning into the transfer shows. They want to consume every single element of the transfer window because it's such big business. You've seen, the likes of Fabrizio Romano become a millionaire off the back of transfers and transfer speculation. So for me, I don't have just one club to keep across. Obviously, Bournemouth is my club, and I'm across that. But Southampton, Portsmouth, Brighton, down on the south coast as well, keep you busy. But you have to be across all 20 plus teams in the Championship and teams in Europe. And you know, imagine trying to be across every single manager, what they're doing, what they're saying, the players they're looking at, the positions they're trying to target, the players they've been linked with, the money they've got available. FFP is a big thing now as well. It consumes you every moment of the window. You have to be, you know, you're either in or out. And at Sky and in that role, you have to be fully committed. It sounds silly, but you have to be across it. You can't just sort of have a few days off and then go into the studio and then start talking about something, because it develops so quickly. You need to be across every step. So it's a challenge, but it's an exciting challenge. The good thing about this window is it's 4 weeks. It's not 8-12 weeks like the summer, where it can really feel like an ordeal. You know, it takes up 3 months of your life. This is just an in and out 4 weeks. It's going to be intense. It's going to be hectic. It's going to be busy. But I'm looking forward to it, because it's already started. You see the stories on social media and people start getting linked with people. You get towards the middle end of January and then all the managers start getting asked in press conferences, oh, have you got some funds available? Have you spoke to the board? Have you got plans for January? What have you got to spend? And so on and so forth. So, it's going to be exciting. As for Tottenham, they're always an interesting side to watch. There's been a lot of changes, hasn't there, behind the scenes with regards to who's doing the recruitment. We know that Daniel Levy likes to take a keen hand on the players they sign and getting those deals done in a way that he is very prudent at. You know, he doesn't like to pay, you know, 50p more than what he feels he should. And they've got this sort of philosophy of, you know, they go for young players and British players. They have done in the past. They've obviously got a few gems from abroad as well, and from Europe. And with a new manager as well, that always adds to the excitement of it. Obviously we know a centre back is paramount.
Absolutely.
And I think Ange Postecoglou has said quite publicly, that's a player, you know, that's an area we need to strengthen. That's a position we need to look at. But with their current position in the table, the way they played, the excitement around the club and the manager and the team, this would be a time, if you can get those players to go and strengthen and just see what could be achieved. Because of course, with the potential of a 5th place Champions League spot, that's massive. Getting into the Champions League is worth, you know, 40 plus million for the group stages. So, you know, if you have to invest a little bit of money to gamble and get that, then it could be a sensible move to make. Yeah,
so that's what we all think, but who knows what they're thinking upstairs. Before we let you go, Mark,
but it has to be the right players, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has to be.
It has to be the right players. That's the key.
We've talked on here numerously, but you can't go into a season with 2 centre halves and Eric Dyer who can't play that style. So I think a centre half is absolutely it's got to be the first priority for Tottenham. Before we let you go,
what would
Mark,
be the other priority if there was a second?
Right now, I think, centre forward, we need a midfielder.
I don't think we do need. I think we need midfielders back. I think a centre forward and a centre half.
Yeah, possibly a left winger come striker. That would be handy.
Probably 2 centre halves, to be honest, not just one.
Yeah, there's a few. Lloyd Kelly, perhaps.
Yeah,
didn't like that one.
There was a link, wasn't there?
Well, yeah. Just quickly, what happened there? There's rumours that he was in tears because he didn't get his move. I don't know if that's true.
I don't think he's in tears. I think it's funny because Lloyd Kelly was a player that we brought in from Bristol City, funnily enough, the same as Alex Scott, a number of years ago under Eddie Howe. Young player at the time, still quite young actually, who had massive potential, could play at left side of centre half, could play at left back as well, had a great profile, very athletic, but was one that needed work and development. And he's clearly developed from a Championship player into a Premier League player, and he's caught the eye for a number of clubs. He's the unfortunate thing about Lloyd Kelly is his injury record is not great.
He'll fit right in.
He's picked up little niggly injuries. He had a decent run in the team. You know, he'll get sort of 6s and 7s and 8 appearances, and then he'll be out for 3 or 4, and then he'll come back for a couple, and then he'll be out for 12 games.
He's Christian Romero.
He's been really unlucky in that respect. Like the hokey cokey, be in and out.
Yeah.
So that's the situation. he is into the last year of his current Bournemouth contract. So as of January the 1st, he can sign a pre-contract agreement with a team in Europe and go for free in the summer. So there was interest from Tottenham. The offer that they put on the table right at the end, I think it was the day before deadline day, or the 2 or 3 days before the window slammed shut, was almost a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a disrespectful offer. It was an offer to engineer some media speculation and movement, and it was a we want you, but we don't want you that much because we're not going to pay that much for you. The offer was, I think it was about 16 or 17 plus 3 or 4. And bearing in mind, Bournemouth paid 13 million for him, plus some add-ons. Like it was an offer that didn't actually reflect his value, and wasn't a fair offer for a player that was clearly a better player than the one that signed from the Championship. So it was one of those. It was a sort of half-hearted attempt to get him, but not a proper one. Which makes me think that maybe that he wasn't as high on the agenda of Tottenham as perhaps some people thought he would or was. But it's one to watch. He's injured at the moment, so I don't know what's going to happen. I think there would be a confidence on Bournemouth's side that they could get him to sign a new contract. But if one of the Italian clubs come in for him and say, look, we'll make you a superstar. We've looked at Chris Smalling. We've looked at Fikayo Tomori. We believe we can make you better. We know that the Italians don't have a lot of money, so they have to be very clever with what they do. A free transfer, someone that's played in the Premier League at a good age. Yeah, you could see why they'd be interested. Yeah. As for him going to Tottenham, can't see that in this window. But when he's a free in the summer, you never know. He'd be a great player to have in your squad, particularly if he was a free.
Yeah. Mark, just before we let you go, quick prediction, please, for Sunday. Obviously, I think you turned us over 3-2 last year, which was a bit depressing. But quick thoughts on Sunday.
If I said 3-2 again, I might upset you guys.
No, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know about...
Quite realistic.
Yeah.
The way Bournemouth are playing at the moment, 6 wins in 7. The one draw that they had in those 7 games was against Aston Villa, and it was an Ollie Watkins header in the 92nd or 3rd minute or something that earned Villa a point. So they could have had 7 out of 7, and in that run they've beaten the big hitters. They went to Old Trafford and smashed them, which is the first time they've ever won in their history at Old Trafford. They beat Newcastle. They beat other teams in and around it, and they make teams mid-table look very ordinary. So I'd have to say Bournemouth could probably do them 3-2 again. They can score goals. They're confident. There's a belief about the place. I think defensively, obviously Spurs are a little bit short at the moment, and offensively Bournemouth look strong. And this is I believe the last game before a couple of players go off to the Africa Cup of Nations as well. So there'll be a couple of players that want to sign off in style. And where better place to do it than probably the greatest stadium in the country,
absolutely,
than in North London. So that's me saying that you're going to get beat. But I'm trying to do it in a nice way, but saying you've got a nice stadium.
Mark, really, really great to talk to you. Really fascinating on Bournemouth. Who I don't mean to be patronising. I'm really interested at the moment because you see the Brightons doing this, but Bournemouth have come from nowhere, and it's fascinating the way they're playing, and they're playing great football. So I am looking forward to seeing them on Sunday. I hope we get a result, but you never know, and I think you could well beat us again. But thanks so much for coming on, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers, Mark.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime.
I say this after every chat with an opposing fan or a player or a journalist. I love to hear from them, but genuinely, and I did say this to Mark, I didn't want to sound patronising. I'm fascinated by Bournemouth at the moment because we've had the Brightons who've come from nowhere, and they've come from nowhere. They signed this guy Iraola, who I knew very little about. Didn't win until their 10th game, as Mark said, and then suddenly the pennies dropped, and it's brilliant they didn't pull the trigger. And everyone was, they should never have sacked Gary O'Neill and blah blah blah. What an incredible turnaround! And whilst I'm really looking forward to seeing them play, I obviously want us to beat them. Sunday is going to be very, very difficult with what we've not got available and what we do have available.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone sort of had them as certainties for probably to finish 4th or 5th bottom, being a relegation battle with the 3 promoted teams in it. Yeah, 7 unbeaten, only 2 drop points, top of the form guide. I know maybe a lot of Spurs fans will see it, or a lot of people would see it as a home banker, but it's definitely feels a lot closer than that.
I think if we had a fully fit team,
Yeah.
I'd say I wouldn't say I have it as a banker, but I'd be deeply disappointed to not beat them.
Yeah.
I'd still be deeply disappointed not to beat them.
Oh, I don't know.
I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't
Without
be
being
surprised.
arrogant.
I don't know. Like,
We
I mean,
should beat Bournemouth with
Jay,
what we've
Really?
got.
They've just gone to
Jay,
United and won 3-0. They smashed
Yeah.
Newcastle.
we haven't won a game with Royal and Davies at centre back, and it's going to be Royal and Davies at centre back.
If a crocked Liverpool or Arsenal were in this same situation, we'd all be saying, they'll still
But
beat
hang
them
on, you were talking. But
comfortably.
again, I'll go back to the point I made against Brighton, right? That they've lost players, but they've got players that have come in. Liverpool and Arsenal have been under those managers for 3-4 years. Liverpool even longer,
I know
so
what
their
you're saying,
succession
but
planning
I just
and
mean
the players
the quality
coming
of
in.
players out there.
I just think we're in a really, really difficult moment with the players that we've got out.
It's still Bournemouth at home.
I get
Beat
that.
us last year.
Yeah,
Last year doesn't count.
Last year doesn't count at all. No, look, we should go out and beat them. There's a couple of things to
Should
keep in mind. They have
What
had
should mean?
They have had 48 hours more rest than us.
Should means because Tottenham are at home to Bournemouth, and Tottenham should be beating Bournemouth at home.
Yeah, we should be beating Bournemouth at home, right?
Yeah.
They've had 48 hours more rest than us. We have got crippling injuries and suspensions at the minute. We haven't got the depth of squad, as we know, to be able to manage this. So it is going to be a bloody hard game, as it was against Everton, who were also the form team. However, similar to Everton, I feel like we are good enough to have a 20-minute spell
To nick a couple of
and
goals.
get a couple of goals and finish teams off. And it is crucial that we do that.
Last night, Estupiñán was on the bench, and I was prepping the game, and I read an article from about 2 weeks ago saying he might not be back until February. Suddenly, the geezer's on the bench. Wouldn't it be nice to have a little surprise? Spurs don't do that, do
Of
they?
course, he went and scored a worldie as well.
He did score a great goal. Should have closed him down.
Three players stood and looked at him.
Got a good view of it. We're not going
Well, they didn't because it went past them.
We're not going to see Maddison or Van de Ven, are we? Even on the bench.
Feels like Madison's FA Cup fourth round, if there is one, is probably the earliest.
Fourth round.
Or there's one Premier League game in the first 4
You don't
weeks.
think even against United?
Maybe bench, but they've not even mentioned him. We're nearly, 2 weeks away from that? 16 days until United, it doesn't seem likely.
So
Van
come on
de
then.
Ven, maybe.
What's your team on Sunday? Not what you think Ange will do. What's your team on
Right.
Sunday?
My team on Sunday is this. Vicario in goal.
Superb, by the way, yesterday.
Oh,
Brilliant.
cheap option. Vicario in goal. Pedro Porro right back. Either one of Ashley Phillips or Dorrington at right centre back. I'd have Ben Davies left centre back and obviously Udogie left back. I would have Sarr in the 6. I would have Lo Celso and Donnelly, and then I would have Johnson, Richarlison, and Son. Yeah,
Who's
two
playing with-
youngsters
Who's
making
playing
their
with
debut.
Sarr, Lo Celso?
Yeah.
They run through him, I reckon.
No, I don't think so. And so what? Like, you're getting players in the team that have a future at the club rather than players that just aren't going to be there. So at least
Well,
develop them.
Lo Celso is one of those that probably won't or might not be here,
We don't know that. He's certainly going to be here till the end of the season,
you think?
right? Højbjerg isn't going to be here until the end of January. So, in all likelihood, I'd be surprised if Hill is as well here at the end of January.
Did we play a few weeks ago? We played Villa. Did we play a ridiculously attacking trio in that game when Bassoon was suspended? Was it
Bentancur started.
Oh yeah,
That's
Bentancur,
what's
Lo
killed us.
Celso, and Kulusevski.
That is
I
what
just
has
don't
absolutely
see any
killed us.
Spurs team without Skip or Højbjerg.
No, I
just
think it
that
would
would be a bit
but
wild.
the que-
as much as I love to go for it.
But the
it'd be a bit
question
wild.
was, what would I do?
No, I know.
And I think Skip will play, and I think it'll be Skip, Lo Celso, and Sarr. Like it will be, and it will be Royal at centre
So Lo
back.
Celso play 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be Royal at centre back. But you asked me what I would do.
I don't know if it will definitely be Royal.
or
He was
Dyer.
shocking last
It will
night.
either be Royal or Dyer.
Yeah.
All right. But it ain't going to be Phillips or Dorrington.
Big team as well, Bournemouth.
Well,
Big.
right.
Solanke is,
So and Ashley Phillips is 6'3", 6'4". You
How
could
good
do
is
with him
Solanke
in
in the
there.
air? Like, some of his headers have been absolutely incredible.
You could do with a big centre back in there. I don't get it because at the beginning of the season,
no one's gonna have any issue with him playing one of those kids, I don't think.
No, I would go with Ashley
especially in a
Phillips.
home game as well. I feel like it's a bit more helpful.
And Jamie Donnelly's been superb at under 21s this
Yeah,
season.
but he's hardly got a look in off the bench.
He didn't even bring him on last night.
Yeah.
He's got like the subs are. Valise comes on in the last 10 minutes, whatever. Then you maybe got a Gill, and that's it, really, isn't it?
Funny one, Valise. He runs a bit like Tarat. A bit all arms and legs, but nice finish. And as I said, great, never going to criticise anyone for celebrating, even at 4-0 down when you've just bagged your first Premier League goal.
And if Son's got an eye on the Asian Cup, because he looks a little bit like looks a little bit like he's playing that way. Stick Felice up front and put Richarlison on the left.
You've got to play Son.
Of course you do, but Ange has got to know what Son's mentality is at the minute. Are you already at the Asian Cup, mate? Are you trying to avoid injury because this is one of your last tournaments? And it's one of his last tournaments, probably. Yeah, like he's not going to be around forever, so I get it. But have an honest conversation, mate. You're tired. You've got, as you're tired, you get
these players. We're not. We've played the least games in the league this season, haven't we?
So I have an issue with this. And a friend on a WhatsApp group keeps saying we're tired, and I know they've played a lot.
Tired from what? We've not even had the Premier League have cut out a game this year. It used to be 26, 28 first. We've basically played Saturday, Wednesday or Thursday, and Sunday. It's just like a midweek Premier League game. It's not been a hectic schedule.
Looked like he was out on his feet last night.
I know we obviously had another midweek Premier League game, but we've not exactly. Liverpool have played 10 more games than us this season?
I don't know if they're tired or not, but what I'm saying about Son is that Ange has to have that conversation with him, mate. The last couple of games, you haven't been on it, right? Have you got an eye on the Asian Cup? It's fine if you have, but let us know if you're playing to avoid injury, if you're not fully out there at this moment.
Yeah.
Be honest. We can put Richie on the left, and he will sure as hell go at them, and put Felice up front. Of course, if Son's on it, you want him playing, and he can hurt Bournemouth if he's on it. But like I said earlier, if he's not on it, he is an empty shirt.
Okay.
And even a liability with his back to goal.
Predictions?
2-1 us.
2-1 us.
I'm going to go for a draw, 2-2.
I was going to say that. I'll go 1-1. Anything could happen. I think Mark was right. It could be 3-2 Bournemouth. There'll be goals. We scored 31 games in a row now, something like that. I'm sure we'll score and I'm sure we'll concede. So it's going to be another roller coaster down the lane. Jake, thanks for coming back on your award-nominated podcast, An Echo of Glory. Don't forget to vote for us over at the Sports Podcast Awards, Best Team Podcast. Danny Kelly, just a little shout out to you again. We're coming for you, mate. Remember, we've got merch, the Echo of Glory baseball caps. DM us at EOGTHFC. We've got T-shirts, which I'm not going to unravel again, but we've got some great merch. Jake, are you going Sunday?
I'm not.
You're not going. You're working. Gary, are you going Sunday?
As of last night, I'm going. I had been banned.
Right.
New Year's Eve, we're throwing New Year's Eve party. She said no, and then finally managed to get my way. I think she realised I'd just be really moody if I didn't.
Okay, well.
Even moodier.
James, prediction for Sunday? Come on, this is dead air. 2. Someone.
Great.
Yeah, okay. Listen, we will be back next week to have a chat about the Bournemouth game and preview Burnley. And have a happy new year and up the Spurs.